Hi, I'm Victoria, and I want to go over a little bit about sugar in particular today. And I'm thinking about how I did a lot of things in the past regarding health. Um, yeah, I did veganism, I did keto a little bit. I would say none of this I did perfectly. Um, but I also did more on leaning towards carnivore, but not total carnivore. So um, I want to talk about sugar in a positive sense today because I've been trying to gain muscle mass for some time and also trying to get that bikini body, and that requires getting more muscle mass and lean and with fitness. And so one of the things is I'm realizing that a lot of the curriculum tells you not to have as much sugar. And so once you get into this realm of like getting super like strict on sugar, you kind of start taking it all out. And I was biking across from Houston to, I made it to Brownwood and at Texas. And when I went in that way, I had a lot of problems uh, with energy. Although I did have a lot more carbohydrates in my diet, but I didn't actually plan it really well with the idea that these packets that they had at the bike shop had sugar in them, and I didn't understand why at the time. So, so one of the reasons is you actually need the fuel right then and right there, and you can actually get fuel right then and there from like um, a bar, like a protein bar, but often I would lean towards the no sugar. Um, so I started to realize I needed sugar, but of course that's because of the high demand that I was putting out with the biking at the time, the cycling, and then also now I'm starting to sprint, and I was getting sick doing um, kind of higher weight and trying to gain muscle, and I was getting sick because I wasn't getting enough fuel. So there's other ways of getting sugar with carbohydrates, and um, it, it breaks it down slower. But then once you start doing something like sprinting, you need the or powerlifting, you need the fuel right then and there. And this also is not just with sugar; it's also with salt. But right now I'm talking about sugar, and that's kind of, like it's been demonized quite a lot. And I'm really into geometry and and like sacred geometry too, and knowing that these are special geometric shapes, and you find out the geometric shape of cane sugar or table sugar, and it has 22 hydrogen, 11 oxygen, and 12 carbon. Now it says they say that when you are not moving around, kind of sitting down, you need to do more fructose, which is half of all of that basically, um, and then it doesn't store it away as triglycerides when you're doing that. But when you're doing sprinting or powerlifting, there's a higher demand, and it needs to have the ATP right now, which won't be, the sugar will not be turned into a triglyceride with a high demand workout. It'll actually use it right away, and it won't go to the liver and turn into a triglyceride. So that was very new to me, but uh, and it actually makes me feel less guilty when I have the sugar now. But again, then we have to go into, well, you don't want to have too much sugar either. So at days that you're not needing the immediate fuel, you would eat differently. So, but there was another thing that I saw that or heard a podcast, and they were talking about prepping the day before you have a big event. That the day before you needed more of the carbohydrates and to prep this way. But then, even with that, you would continue to need um, the instant demand of sugar. So whether that was in one of those sports packets, so then not being afraid of the sport packet as long as you're using it for a high demand activity. So which, I would argue that basketball would be one, or even like soccer. So because there's a high demand because it's longer, and anytime you need more carbohydrates to feed like a long exercise, then like 3 hours worth, then you're gonna need higher demand of fuel for yourself. But when you're losing weight, so that's one of the things that it's really hard sometimes when you're talking to people that this guy told me that I looked really great and I was looking a lot better, and I was like, yeah, I'm eating more. And he got really upset. He said, you need to eat less. And I was like, no, I'm sprinting, I need to eat more. And so that was kind of really hard because the demand is higher, and you can't have a low amount of carbs, protein, or fat, or calories really, if you're and some things, like when you're doing complex carbs, it's actually less calories than like a donut, and you would actually eat more to get the carbohydrate or the calories that you need in a day to fuel yourself. You would actually eat more. So I was saying I was eating more, and he got upset with me, but he was going on different information on a different actual goal, like versus a person who's doing a high demand workout on a regular basis, eating heavier food. I mean, not heavier food, but like more calories is not going to actually make you gain weight necessarily. And actually, we were going through the fact that maybe I wasn't eating enough calories, and it was actually making me gain weight because the body was noticing that you were in a depletion for too long, and then it decided, oh, you're not giving me enough, I now have to store this stuff as fat. And that's actually why I wasn't getting my gains. And also I was getting sick because I wasn't eating enough, and I was doing explosive movements, and I was eating really low calorie per day. So then so it doesn't make sense. So with the idea of that plus the sugar thing, like, oh, I can actually have this and not feel guilty. Ideally, of course, you want to go towards fruit, but then it's like fruit is fructose. It doesn't have the higher chain molecule than that cane sugar does. And in Ayurveda, they actually say that a pitta, which is usually a person that is fire having to do with metabolism, and higher metabolism, that usually they're on the warmer side, and they need to cool down, and sugar can actually cool you down. The triglyceride doesn't really happen if you are doing high demand workouts, and so the cane sugar is not really going to give you that spike necessarily, especially when you combine it with certain foods like salad first, or with a fat like cheese, so or butter, in fact. So what's crazy is it's just like, oh, our food is already this way. It's just about the lifestyle that people are utilizing with eating like cookies and so forth, and you know, because a sports gel that you could take, it has sugar in it, and it's a lot of this. And then you have like a nutrition bar, and that had like the grains in it. Essentially it's the same as a cookie at some point, but then you don't want to eat like that all the time. You want to make sure that when you when you're eating those those days that you need to fuel, that it has to be there. It's okay to eat the cane sugar, basically, because it's going to be instant fuel. It'll have the 22 not 22 hexagons, excuse me, hydrogen, and 11 oxygen, and the 12 carbon. And the molecule itself, it's formed with a pentagon and a hexagon. And I was really excited when I saw that. I realized it was actually healthy for you, and that it was really crazy that they are demonizing it all over the place. And it's understandable, because lots of people do not do high demand workouts, but that it's actually really healthy for someone who is actually doing high demand, and it will help fuel your muscle right away, so that you could do those explosive movements. And also there's signs like if you have too much sugar and not enough salt. So it has to be a combo of salt and sugar, so and a certain ratio. But it's with that ratio, it's actually has to do with how much you're sweating. So when you're doing a high demand workout, you're going to sweat out more the salt and sugar. And so that stuff that you need to fuel, well, the sugar is being burned through the ATP that needs to help with building your muscle. And if it doesn't have enough, it starts taking away from your actual muscle. So you want to be able to get the gains, and there's healthy ways of doing that, of course. What I'm not arguing necessarily. I'm trying to say is that the sugar is actually part of sports health. But then once you start doing more things on your computer and less of working out, all of a sudden it's actually a good idea to kind of retract that and eat more of the fructose, where it's half of that of the cane sugar. So the thing about the cane sugar is it's instant fuel right now that you need. It's not going to store it away. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, you're actually tricking your body when you're taking the fake sugar, and when you're on a run and you're craving sugar, you need it after the run, like you did a high demand load. You actually need the sugar, and your body is going, no, like you just gave me zero sugar. I got this sweet taste, but it starts working fast, like it needs to break down something and take the sugar and feed your muscles with ATP instantly, and you're not giving it that. And then it's like, oh, that's not good. you know. So when you start doing that, your body starts thinking it needs to do things like store fat. So to avoid this, you need to give it what it actually needs, and not be afraid of sugar spikes. They happen for everybody. It's a normal process of everything, of like digesting your food. It's going to spike a little bit. The main thing about this is is then that you build it a certain way, so that your food so that it doesn't spike as much, and that it can handle the load of sugar and whatever carbohydrate that you're having, and that way you can actually eat things that you need to eat. So I'm not a dietitian. I am a personal trainer and a yoga instructor. I learned a lot about nutrition, but and I love health, of course, but I don't. As this journey of our health journey, it's like they demonize the sugar, and it's actually necessary for sports medicine, and it, it actually is, and it's actually one of the things that we need to be careful with, because you don't want to have too much, and you don't want to have too little. So, and that's with everything, the golden ratio of everything. With pH, it's the same thing. There was a time where I was trying to have more alkaline foods, because a lot of them have more like they have more of the it's not antacids, it's like free radicals. No, not antacids. Why do I think it's antacids? So like that fight free radicals, and then we know that you need free radicals to help fight disease. So it's like even that you have to be careful with. You have to be careful with not taking away too many of the free radicals, but being pretty selective with the food. So, but when I was eating high alkaline food, it literally was making me sick. And a lot of them are superfoods, and you're thinking superfood should make you healthier. And I went into that, and I realized that it was actually not helping me at all. So, not superfood. Well, it is superfood. So, like, I feel like that's not correct. So I don't know. I feel like none of that's correct. Hold on. Okay. So that's a lot of information on that, but basically, like, you actually need a certain amount of sugar and a certain amount of free radicals to be healthy. And so I'm not saying going crazy over eating things that have free radicals in them, but not to eliminate them. And anyway, it's just about ratios, and it's about the correct ratios for everything. And when you're doing some type of trend like ketogenic, and they take away carbs, they're taking everything away that has to do with fuel in your body. You're literally starving yourself, and you're trying to do bodybuilding, in particular bikini, and it's myself, and it's like, no. And now we're sprinting because it kind of serves the bikini, and I also want to get faster. And it's like, you can't sprint several times a week that you need to, or lift several times a week that you need to, without fueling yourself properly. If you don't, you're not going to be able to recover properly, and you won't be able to get the gains, and we end up sick. And I don't want that anymore. So I'm not I'm not thinking that this is a bad thing, but I'm noticing that even the bodybuilder trainers are against people having sugar. And that's one of the things that they're like, oh, I saw a reel where he's like, she's doing so well, but then she ended up eating one of these and then she went downhill, and showing a cupcake. And then it could have been I don't know. But it, none of the trainers that we know say to cut all of this out. I was really strict on myself where I wasn't I wasn't really doing that. But anyway, what are we trying to say is that I think they might not like this because they're doing something where they're cutting all of this stuff and they get hangry, and I don't want to do that. I want to do it the healthy way, and I want to fuel my muscle, and I want to fuel it in several ways. Of course, with protein, fat, and carbohydrates, and in this order: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And so the carbohydrates needs to be the highest, and I want a higher fat content, especially healthy fat, because I want it to help with brain function. But also carbohydrates actually help with brain function quite a lot. And finding out that sugar or glucose is it glucose actually helps with the brain function, and then that comes from carbohydrates, really. And so that's kind of interesting. And when you find this stuff out, it makes sense why you're like kind of lethargic without the sugar, because you're not fueling the muscles and you're not fueling your brain. And there's other things, of course, that comes with the sugar that help with health, like vitamins and minerals that you need, of course. But I'm trying to say that the main driver is actually turns out to be sugar. So and it's not like you can actually just down sugar and be fine. But I'm just trying to say that I'm not going to be scared of it anymore, you know. And I'm I'm going to, you know, when I work out really hard and I do all of that, I'm not going to be scared of the sugar. So that's what I'm going with, and we'll see how this journey goes.